It's a combination of airplane and driving. It's very fun.
Um, do you improvise? And if so, how much do you think you incorporate with the music? And how do you work together?
That's a really good question. So sometimes we would have drummers and we would have guitarists, and I personally improvise a little bit because I was in jazz band in high school, and then I also studied jazz. I had jazz lessons in college, and so I really like improvising. I also worked for 10 churches when I was an undergrad. That's how I make good money. And to answer your questions about improvisation within music, we usually have like 8 bars of improv time, and then you could just play whatever within the chord structure. And so we kind of pass it around with each other and then really groove into each other. So it's really fun.
Just like individually, like how much do you practice your instrument every day?
That's a really good question. I think when we were growing up, we tried to practice 4 to 5 hours a day. Nowadays, it's a little harder with the travel schedule, so it varies from 0 for me to maybe like 3 or 4. Anyway.
Can you turn off your pack and play that?
Yeah.
7:30 tonight. Make sure you come on back.
Okay, it's 5 o'clock. I'll call to order the Village Board of Oregon for Monday, February 3rd, 2025. Ms. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Higgins.
Here.
Menke.
Here.
Kirkstorfer.
Here.
McDaniel. Here. Peterson. Here. And Van Campen.
Here. Item 3, approval of January 21st, 2025 Village Board meeting minutes of correct and correction mistakes, if any. Motion by Tim, second by Jason. Questions, comments, corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 4, public appearances, comments, and communications. Item 4 is discussion and/or possible action. A, alcohol beverage application for a reserve Class B intoxicating liquor license submitted by Boating Howe Brew Pub LLC, doing business as Boating Howe Brewing Company, located at 201 Concord Drive. Agent McCann J. Schroeder. Note, applicant currently holds a Class B fermented malt beverage and Class C wine-only alcohol beverage license. I will now open the public hearing. There are no staff comments. Would you like to come up, gentlemen? I'm sorry, for Jamie and Mac.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Well, it was one or the other. There was not if you could identify yourselves and who you represent.
I'm Jamie Bush, one of the owners of Boating Howe Brewing Company. McCann Schroeder, the other owner of the brewing company.
Okay, just maybe tell us a little bit about what your plans are and.
This is purely a reaction to our customer base. Evidently, not everybody loves fresh beer. Some people don't want to have a beer. And we have actually had almost daily, like every once in a while, usually a spouse. Oh, I love your place, but I prefer a gin and tonic or whatever. And usually we are like, okay, well, we'll see how this goes. But during the Christmas season, we had multiple Christmas parties that were scheduled to come in and, 30, 50 people. And they're like, we have people that don't want this. So we realized that we have taken the total potential customer base we have and we have shrunk that down. And so all we're really doing is getting, I mean, I think we didn't really plan for having, this wasn't our plan when we did this, so we don't really have the space to have extensive alcohol. We're not changing our hours. We're honestly getting, I think, 2 or 3 vodkas, 2 or 3 tequilas, just a couple of things so we can provide an alternate option for people who are not into drinking delicious, fresh-made beer.
Okay,
So that's pretty much it.
all right. Any questions from trustees? No, hearing none? Okay, I will then close the public hearing. Gentlemen can step back, please.
Thank you.
And then village board discussion, possible action on this application. Looking for a motion to approve.
I would make a motion to approve.
All right, Tim, and I'll put Tom down for a second.
Higgins and Kirchdorfer, you said?
Yes, thank you. Okay, any discussion on the matter? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you for coming in.
You can stay for the rest of the meeting if you want.
I think it's required. Okay, item 4B, public comment. This part of the agenda allows members of the public to provide information to the village board, including items both on and off the agenda. Under the open meetings law, this agenda item allows the board to receive information and to ask questions of a presenter to facilitate a better understanding of the information. Board members may discuss procedural matters relating to the information, such as whether the information should be directed to staff, referred to a committee, or placed on a future board agenda. 15 minutes will be provided for this item with a 3-minute maximum per speaker. Otherwise, the agenda will proceed as posted. We have a registered gentleman, Dave Kirscher. Would like to come up?
I have some material.
Okay.
You want it now, or?
Yeah, you can bring it up if you'd like.
These are pictures from the Oregon Parks community. And I do have them posted or marked. I also have a copy of an email I sent Jeff Rao back in September.
Okay.
I have a few copies of that.
Why don't I pass them out and you can,
Okay. And I also, that's a brief explanation of the photos that I'm going to go over with you.
If you can state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
David Kirscher, 869 Oregon Parks Avenue.
Okay.
I'm addressing the board meeting because of the construction going on the corner of North Bergamot, Oregon Parks, Liberty Park Drive, and Oregon Center Drive, just across the road. The sites are all Kismet construction sites. I have been up and down with them for weeks, if not months, about the debris, as you will see in those photos. The first set of pictures is from me walking through last week. Garbage was found from their site in the trash can for the Liberty Park. I actually talked to Lauren this morning. This village picked up that trash, which is very appreciated. I think it's a poor use of village resources to pick up construction trash that belongs to someone else. That was in the first set of pictures. You'll also see in those pictures cardboard blowing on the street and everything. In sets 2, 3, 4, and 5, this was from the wind event last Tuesday. All that trash you see is piled on my workbench that blew into my yard that day alone, which I believe is totally unacceptable. Most of it is from the Kismet site. Some of it is from the Beehive, where they were doing the roofing. That's what all the pink is in there. I actually have some of that pink in my trees that I have no way to get down. When I did confront them about that over there, they sent one person around for a few minutes, and that was the end of it. In 6 and 7, you will see that this dates back to August, September when I sent Jeff the message. Their silt tubes are piled on in a pile in their yard in the field, yet silt is running down the curbs into our sewer system, which is very troubling. They also showed debris on the sidewalks in 8, 9, and 10. 11 and 12 is of an abandoned vehicle from one of our own companies in town that was there for weeks. They did move it after I finally called about it and everything, but I just want to read what I sent to Jeff. I also had to contact Omni as they appeared to have abandoned an older service vehicle on Liberty in the area where the construction workers are parking. They did resolve this immediately, but it only goes to show the lack of respect for a community can be contagious by members of that community. It's just totally out of hand there. And what I don't understand is I have gone to the site over on Richards Road, the new site. There is less trash on all those houses combined in the around them than there is in front of one house over here. The silt tubes that you saw, there's pictures that show they've been sitting in the middle of the sidewalk for 3 to 4 weeks at a time with no movement at all. I have contacted Kismet in the past. I got one response that they would do better and never got another response after that.
Okay, you get about another 30 seconds.
Okay. You'll see in all the pictures, which I hope you discuss, that it shows a systemic problem with the whole neighborhood. I do want to point out the pictures were all taken with my cell phone. They are dated on the back, and I have, of course, they're dated in my phone also. I encourage the board members and the village officials to take the time to walk that block to see what I am talking about, because the pictures do not do it justice. The trash has been there for too long.
Okay.
Thank you.
I appreciate your comments. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Anyone else for public comment? Seeing none. Item 5, approval of vouchers in the amount of $1,221,580.36. Staff recommendation, motion to approve. Jason and Tim. Questions or comments?
I had a question.
Go ahead, Tim.
I think it's on page 36. Building 60, Alliant Energy, 12,000. Do we know can we describe what that's for?
Streetlights.
I think that's the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay. It uses a lot of energy then, huh? Okay, thank you.
Lynn?
That was my same question. Is that a monthly?
Yes.
That's for 1 month? Okay.
Yes, that's the monthly bill.
I can speak to that slightly. The way the wastewater treatment plant electrical service is set up is quite unusual. It's got a lot, if not the majority of the site, I believe, comes through building 60. And so what you're seeing at that one building actually feeds the whole site there. So that's why it's so high.
Sure.
All right.
Anybody else? Tom?
On page, the packet, page 37, item 6570, I just thought Lauren might like to take an opportunity to speak about the $500,000 in asphalt and the reasoning that why we did those projects this year and the asphalt pricing that we got. It came up during the public, during the meeting, yeah.
Sure. So these are all kind of I would say the grab bag asphalt projects that we did this year. So this includes the Public Works parking lot, along with storm improvements there. The rotary trail gravelled sections going back to pavement there, the Keller Alpine Path, and then the basketball courts Mary Hill, Bethel Greenacre, and Gasner Parks. Part of the reason that we chose to do all of these projects, and most specifically the Keller Alpine project, is that our asphalt prices this year were very, very good ones. Every once in a while, you'll see kind of the few companies that work in our area decide to really get into it, to kind of outcompete one another, and this was one of those years. And so if we had waited even one more year, it's likely those prices would have gone up potentially 30–40% on asphalt. And so that's why we did move ahead with specifically with that Keller Alpine Trail. So this will be coming in about, I think, $125,000 under what we had budgeted for these three projects together.
Yeah, it's $500,000, but it's quite substantial below what it could have been, so that was an important point.
And they did a nice job.
Anybody else? Okay, it's roll call vote, please.
Van Campen.
Yes.
Mankey.
Yes.
Kirchdorfer.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Higgins.
Yes.
And McDaniel.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 6, consent agenda. Staff recommendation, motion to approve the consent agendas as presented. And I'm going to read item A. This is for the new senior center building committee, and I wanted to recognize the individuals that have stepped up to get this committee started, and that is Tom Kirchhofer, Village Board Representative, Clarice Dewey, Oregon Council on Aging Representative, Mark Miller, Sustainability Committee Representative, and I might note that Mark would now be on 3 committees. He's really stepped up. Greg Snelly, Plan Commission Representative, and then citizen representatives Jerry Polly, Jane Morgan, and Kate Gladding. We opted to, as you recall, have someone represent the towns, and Kate will be stepping into that position. She's a former Town of Oregon board member. So thanks to them all for volunteering. And we're looking for a motion to approve. Jason and Tim. Questions, comments on any of these items? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 7, reports of committees. Item for discussion and possible action. A1, Sustainability Committee. Proposal to join the Madison Area Municipal Stormwater Partnership Committee and staff recommendation. Motion to direct staff to seek joining. Lynn?
Sure.
Thanks.
Do you want me to speak on this, or do you want a motion?
Motion, sure, motion, start with that.
I'll motion.
Lynn and Amanda. And now you're welcome to.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for keeping me on track.
No problem. Lauren is probably going to speak much more eloquently about what this actually is, but I'll give you the sustainability background piece about this. The Sustainability Committee has been exploring, obviously, parts of the plan that we wanted to implement. The first moment that we sort of ran into the MAM swap brick wall was rain barrels. We had someone come out to help us understand if we could offer that. And MAM swap is an organization of communities that come together to meet 2 specific purposes. Primarily, it is for a DNR stormwater requirement, which Lauren will speak to and I will not attempt to. The other piece is that then they come together and offer specific incentives and programs for those who are a part of the MAM swap group. And so we had sort of tabled that. And then earlier this year, we had reached out to talk about adopting some storm drains as a project for the Sustainability Committee, and yet again found that the MAM swap group has some opportunities for us, but yet we are not a part of MAM swap. So we have been working with Lauren and Martin and the MAM swap people to potentially put ourselves within this partnership prior to the requirement of us being in this partnership. It is inevitable that we would need to abide by this DNR stormwater requirement. And so it is sort of inevitable that we would become a part of MAMSWAP. And so this is just sort of putting us on that track a little earlier so that we can potentially utilize some of the benefits of this partnership and set ourselves up for the future need that we may have. Lauren, on to you.
No pressure.
That was great. You did a really good job. So I will try to make this somewhat brief. It's a complicated topic, but when we talk about stormwater, we generally talk about two different parts of it. So one is quantity, and that is how we refer to flooding issues, which obviously with climate change have become a much bigger, more noticeable occurrence. The other that is a little bit less noticed, but equally important and in its own way equally tied to climate change as an issue is quality. And that refers to the different chemical constituents that wash into our stormwater. Phosphorus is a great example, particularly with climate change. With these kind of rain events in the middle of winter when fields are bare, more is washing in. And so that's a really critical topic, and it's one that the DNR does regulate for us. So all municipalities of a certain size, 10,000 residents, do have to be permitted under DNR code for stormwater discharge. We reached that in 2020. There have been some, my understanding is, federal arguments between different departments that have kept us from being formally designated an MS4, but the state believes that it is coming finally for us and that this is going to be the year. So they, quite frankly, don't understand why we haven't entered that any more than we do. So in our area, most of the municipalities around here are already MS4s, and a large group of them kind of centered around Madison and more importantly discharging to Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District a while back decided that instead of coming in under kind of individual permits for each of them, they would join together to make one large group of permittees. And part of the benefit of that for them is to be able to do a lot of knowledge sharing, as well as to be able to collaborate on the information and outreach portion of their permits. So that is what started MAMSWAP, and it is essentially a program that's run through Dane County that gathers everyone under this permit and gets them together 4 times a year. It also funds a position that comes up with a whole lot of education and outreach opportunities for members to meet that portion of their permit. And as Lynn pointed out, it's very well organized. The staffer in charge of it, Crystal Campbell, is incredibly good at what she does and is a huge asset. And so between the fact that we are going to be moving into this MS4 world, the relatively low cost of this program to kind of come in, I think it's about $6,000 a year for 2025, and the benefits to our residents with some of the programs the Sustainability Committee has been looking towards, it does seem a pretty opportune time to try to start getting ahead of this issue and making our way in.
Thank you, Lauren. Questions or comments on this item? Okay, hearing none. We have a motion by Lynn, second by Amanda. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 8, unfinished business, items for discussion and or possible action. A, resolution number 25-02, amendments to the village board handbook policies related to providing enhanced public comment or opportunities and public information on village board meeting agendas. This was in a packet. Did you want to speak to this, Martin? Or?
I don't think I have any more to add other than what we talked about at the meeting a couple meetings ago. Just a few more minor refinements and wording changes in the final drafts, but they're ready to go and ready to be acted on, unless there's any questions or feedback.
Tim?
I had a couple of questions. One, can you elaborate on what the concern was regarding open meeting laws in terms of allowing this?
So under the state statute, all meetings are required to be noticed and identify the time and place of the meeting and what the agenda is going to look like for that meeting. And I think one difficulty that you run into is if your agenda says that here is where a meeting's going to take place and here's where you can participate in that meeting, that if for some reason there's technological issues that prevent a person from attending the meeting, it could give rise to potential claim. Now, we haven't seen lawsuits like that. I think that would be fairly rare to come up with. And I think that in general, on the whole, it's better that we just identify upfront for citizens, hey, FYI, this might happen. It would be a little bit different circumstance from if, for example, the board is holding this meeting here in Village Hall today, and for some reason the door is locked at 5 p.m. and actually nobody could attend. That's obviously a little bit more of an egregious violation of the meetings law. But this question, though, comes up all the time is that, well, if we offer a hybrid or virtual meeting and for some reason the Zoom link doesn't work or somebody has these technological issues and they can't access the meeting, does it somehow give rise to a claim under the open meetings law? And we think maybe, but probably not. Best to just make sure people have all the information so that they understand the risk that's involved with taking part in it that way.
Okay, then the other question was regarding the planning commission. Are they prepared for this? They seem to get more public comment.
This is not applicable to anybody but the village board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and as far as, and just to expand on that, you could presumably require these sort of requirements for village board created committees and commissions. But statutory commissions like the plan commission, they have the ability to control their own meetings and set their own meeting policies. And certainly you could engage with your legal counsel on the nuances of that, but this wouldn't apply to plan commission.
Anybody else? Jason?
I just want to thank Martin for his work on this, and I think this adds accessibility. I don't expect to see a flood of people, but this gives more opportunity to the public to interact with the village board, so thank you for that.
Anybody else? Okay, we're looking for a motion to adopt as presented. Jason and Tom. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 8B, resolution number 25-03, preliminary resolution declaring intent to exercise special assessment powers for the 2025 North Oak Street reconstruction project. Staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Tim and Jason again. Lauren, anything to add to this?
Not a lot. This is kind of the same process that we go through with each of our street reconstruction projects. It's the statutory requirement that we, before even going forward with putting together a schedule of special assessments, have to declare these are the properties that we are looking to potentially specially assess depending on how the plans and the quantities come out. So.
Okay. Questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 8C, proposal from AE2S LLC for County Road CC, that is Jefferson Street, existing drainage study in the amount not to exceed $75,000. Staff recommendation, a motion to approve as presented. Amanda and Tim. And I bet Lauren's up again.
Yes. So this is kind of part one of a two-part process to move towards design for the Alpine and CC intersection. It is also a bit of a first step towards addressing a number of issues that we are seeing on this side of town. So the Alpine CC intersection is, of course, in the CC corridor, which itself is kind of a collector for stormwater here on the west side. Given how flat it is, it does join into the ponds over in the Keller Alpine Conservation Park area. And how full those ponds are, the way that they are behaving, really can impact how this corridor itself behaves. Now, those ponds are hydraulically connected to the north, as we learned in 2018, to kind of that area by Cusick Parkway and Netherwood. and back to Lake Barney, which itself is impacted by a huge agricultural section of Fitchburg. And so as we started to move towards design on Alpine and CC, our first thought was, well, are these culverts sized correctly underneath this intersection such that we can do this intersection design and construction in 2026 and not have to revisit it in 2028 when we do the whole corridor? Well, part of that, to answer it, we have to know how the full corridor is behaving and probably will behave. And to figure that out, we kind of have to know, in this case, how this full watershed will behave. So really kind of the instigating event, if you will, is this design. But part of what's exciting, I would say, about this study is that it will provide support to so many of these upcoming projects and questions, any kind of development along Netherwood, any kind of improvements to Netherwood, the West Side Conservation Park Master Plan, anything that we would like to do there. This all kind of depends on what hydraulics look like in this area. AE2S is a specialist in this kind of really complex stormwater modeling. They're very, very good at what they do. And they also have really good relationships with most of the traffic and transportation designers in this area. And so they are able to work with really whoever we move forward with for design here to provide them recommendations and work with them to make sure that their design proceeds along the schedule that we need it to hit and that it is really robust and ready to meet what we need it to meet.
Okay, questions? Tom, Linton, and then
Yes.
Amanda.
My first reaction was just the geographic footprint of this is something like, I didn't do any kind of measurement, but there's like 5/8 of it is in Fitchburg. As far as the map, and we were talking out past Fish Hatchery and quite a ways north. It gave me some hesitancy. The other part of it was, tell me how a model works. I mean, is it a database? Is it a map? What are we talking about here? Is this something you can query against?
Sure. No, that's a great question. So models work in different ways, and what they are proposing to do here is what's called a rain-on-grid model. And what it essentially does is it spatially takes a whole watershed and it divides it into little chunks. So we're talking typically like 10-foot by 10-foot chunks. And it applies however much rainfall at whatever speed you tell it to apply to each of those. And then you enter in information about the roughness and the slope of that surface as well as the permeability. And it calculates, well, how much water is even going to leave this tiny square and how much is going to infiltrate. Of that water that leaves, how quickly will it leave based on how rough it is and how sloped it is? Which little tiny square next to it is it going to go to? And eventually it brings it all down to kind of the lowest area of the watershed. So it sounds really complicated, and the math behind it really is very complicated. The tools that we use nowadays have vastly improved the efficiency of this stuff. So you can use GIS to really kind of map out your watershed very quickly, give you a quick snapshot of that roughness and of that slope, and kind of get your model constructed very quickly. Surprisingly, the most time-intensive part is not stuff like Fitchburg, where it's basically just taking land use out of a database. It's mapping all of the different storm sewer that we have in the village and entering in kind of data about what are the inverts of this pipe? How does this pipe interact with the surface that we've constructed? So surprisingly, and I actually did speak to AE2S about this, you don't gain much financially taking out Fitchburg. It is the bulk of the work here and of the money to construct this is in kind of getting that detailed information, whether it's getting extra survey or just bringing it in and defining the mathematical way that that kind of subsurface infrastructure interacts with the surface, that's kind of the bulk of this, kind of the financial investment here, if that makes sense.
Okay, did you have follow-up, Tom?
So this is going to give us a good working model, which will be available in other projects. I guess the other question then that sort of remains is like, what about the other part of the Oregon that's not covered in this model? Is there some plans down the future that we're going to have to map that as well?
Likely, yes, I should say, I would probably recommend that at some point. So this actually dovetails very nicely with the MAM swap conversation. Once we become permitted, we will be required by law to do a water quality model for the entire village of Oregon. It is likely that at some point it would benefit the village pretty considerably to do a water quantity or a flooding model like this for the entire village. It really helps when you're looking, especially at things like development, to be able to quickly say, oh, we've looked at this model, we know exactly what we need in this certain area, so that we're not overbuilding, so that we're not kind of pushing problems downstream. So the way that this model is set up and the technology that they're proposing to use is one that you could just build off of in the future to kind of easily add this in, and you wouldn't have to redo it, which is an unfortunate situation that you often run into if you pick kind of a least common denominator technology. So yes, most likely at some point we are looking at kind of doing a wholesale village model in this fashion.
Okay, Lynn, then Amanda.
I just have a couple of questions, of which I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I think I want to ask them to you to make a point a little bit. First of all, if we were if we were sitting in 2028 and we were about to go do the CC corridor, we would need to do this, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And eventually the entire village will need to do this, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the funding for this is not necessarily coming out of any capital or budgetary. It looks like it's being absorbed by a fund that was already pre-set up to absorb some of this cost, the road improvements of Netherwood, a stormwater fund, and the general parks fund, correct?
That is correct. I will say that the Parks Fund and the Stormwater Fund, they are general fund numbers. And the reason that it was parceled up was essentially to try to be fair to all of these different pots of money.
Awesome.
I can expand on that too.
Oh, feel free.
So, as you mentioned, so there's, and we talked about this when we talked about doing the intersection project. The village has obviously been very forward-thinking about development on the west side in terms of collecting fees from developers to pay for future infrastructure improvements. We do have two funds set aside for CC, number one. There's over $1 million sitting in that fund for improvements to that street. And then we also have Netherwood Road has a fund that we've also collected some funds for future improvements there. We also collect fees from developers for stormwater, so we're using some funds from there to contribute to this project as well. And then of course we have park impact fees that we collect from developers also, and we see some cross benefits with the conservation parks over here for using that. So that's where the funding breaks down that Lauren outlined in her memo here. So this entire $75,000 is funded by developer fees collected.
Which is exactly the point I was trying to make, which is that this is inevitable. We're going to be ahead of the game a little bit, and we're going to use funds that were already delineated for this purpose. So appreciate all of that.
Amanda.
I'm trying to figure out what my question is now, if I still have it. That was very good. I'm absorbing. So at some point, because we're dealing with the whole watershed, if we make improvements somewhere along the line, at what point do we have to involve I forget the name of it now, like the water board, what's the name of that?
The drainage district.
The drainage district, yeah. Would we have to involve them at some point if we're making improvements for water flow and all that?
That is an excellent question. Along the CC corridor, not to my knowledge, although we'd want to probably just loop them in. North of Netherwood, I could get back to you on that. I just have to look at the boundaries of it and see what's been done already.
Okay. That's it.
Anybody else? Okay, we have motion and a second, a motion by Amanda, a second by Tim. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks, guys.
Item 9, new business, none. Item 10, reports of village officers, department heads, and consultants. This is for information only. No action by the village board will be taken. See reports in the meeting packet. A, village administrator report. Questions? No. B, Director of Community Development report and annual affordable housing report. Please.
Just a couple notes on this. First of all, thank you to Lisa, Leanne, and Lauren, our L's, for some help on getting all this data updated. Especially Leanne did a lot of driving around and verifying lots are available, a lot of time playing around on Zillow, so appreciate all the time there. This is an annual report we're required to do since we are over 10,000 in population. I believe this is the fifth or sixth year that we've done these. So they look pretty similar year to year. We did a full update of the map, just as far as kind of the base map with all the new Greenview Preserve, Viridian parcels. So those are all in there now. Nothing groundbreaking as far as data, but it's nice to check some things off the list as far as recommendations that have been in this plan for year to year. We updated the definition of family to be quite a bit more inclusive, and so that happened in August with a zoning text amendment, so we could cross that off the list. Hopefully later this year, once I'm back from leave, probably start tackling more of accessory dwelling units, tiny houses, that kind of stuff in the code. So hopefully this time next year, maybe we'll be making some progress on that as well. A lot of data in here about, poverty levels and, average prices of homes, things like that. I think the number that I always kind of pay attention to is at the end with the summary, but average home sale price as of January 2025, what was listed on Zillow, is about $532,000 or so. The median home value is about $429,000 in the village of Oregon, so about a 24% difference between the assessed value and what these homes are at least being listed at, not necessarily sold at, but definitely a bit of a gap there. So it's a number that I definitely track, but happy to take any questions. Mostly just providing this as an FYI. It's up on our website. It's required to be up on the website by the end of January. But kind of required to put in all this data, so that's why a lot of this is here. But just wanted to share with you all.
Okay. Questions for Elise? Tom?
I just want to comment, obviously it was a team effort on this. While it's a required report, it is a substantial effort, and there's a lot of great information in there. It would take a long time to get all of it digested in a timely manner, but appreciate the work that went into it. Thank you for all the staff.
Anything else? Okay, thank you, Elise. Item 10C, Village Financial Advisory Report, Annual Analysis of Refunding Existing Bonds.
So every year we get this report from our Village Financial Advisor, Ellers. They look to see if we can basically refinance any of our existing bonds into lower interest rates to achieve any savings. And as you can see, there are none this year, and there have been none for the last couple of years. And there may be none for a few more years, just because most of our debt is in really low interest rates going back the last 10 years. So, this is a good thing that we don't have to do that.
Okay, thank you, Martin. 10D, Village Cook Report, February 18th, 2025, spring primary in-person absentee early voting schedule.
Just like it says in the packet, starts tomorrow.
Starts tomorrow, okay?
It's the next 14 days we'll be doing that, so.
Okay.
Tell your friends.
Okay. Item 11, announcements and miscellaneous business. A, announcements, comments, communications, upcoming meetings and events, and miscellaneous business. Village board member may provide brief statements, but no discussion or action of the body shall occur. 1, referendum information, excuse me, let me try that again. Referendum info session number 1, Tuesday, February 25th at 2 to 3:30 p.m. at the Senior Center. Referendum info session number 2, Tuesday, March 4th at 6:30 to 8 p.m. at Village Hall. Third is referendum information session Wednesday, March 19th, 6:30 to 8 p.m., Senior Center. And fourth would be Thursday, March 27th at 6:30 to 8 p.m. That will be virtual. Martin, did you want to?
Yes, just want to add a couple comments on referendum updates. So Lauren's shown on the screen here, so this is one of the materials that'll be published out here pretty soon. This is just a fact sheet. It'll be something that goes on our website, social media. We'll have paper copies out to all of our facilities, and of course anybody, organizations or businesses or any individuals who want to take some and put them out at their locations would be helpful as well. We also have a fact sheet, or a frequently asked questions sheet with answers to common questions about the referendum that will accompany this fact sheet. So we'll also have that out on social media and out at physical locations as well. So those things are going to be coming here towards the end of this week. As Phil went over here, we have our information sessions scheduled. We're going to be doing 4 of them. I know we had talked originally about 3, but decided to do 4. We'll have a press release announcing the information sessions coming out here in the next week. We are being a little bit mindful of this primary election that's coming up here in the next couple of weeks on February 18th, kind of slowing down some things, maybe not pushing some things out just to not confuse people that this is going to be happening in a couple of weeks here. And of course, didn't frustrate people as well. So being mindful of that, but we will be starting to ramp up social media content. So starting this week, we're going to be doing about 2 to 3 posts a week, trying to get information out. First mailer, direct mailer to residential addresses will be coming out here probably next week. That'll mirror the fact sheet that you're seeing up on the screen. We also are working on the video ad that we discussed. OCA Media is going to be doing that for us, which is very much appreciated. I know they've been collecting some B-roll footage. I think Phil is going to be the voice in that ad. So we'll be doing. So we'll be doing putting that out on the website. I think OCA has said they'll get it on the cable access channel, get it out on YouTube, and social media and all that good stuff. We're also working on the letter to the editor, and maybe working with the Observer on some articles for related to the referendum. And then we'll be reaching out to community groups to possibly do some presentations or whatever way they prefer to get information from us. So we'll be having 4 info sessions. I know with the Village Board Public Outreach Program, there'll be 6 events that folks will be doing up through April 1st. And of course, we have the 3 public safety events that we talked about, not directly referendum related, but certainly can answer questions related to that. And also share information about the info sessions at those as well. So those things are all starting to be pushed out, and things will probably be starting to ramp up here this week and next week.
Questions, comments? Lynn, please.
I just wanted to thank you, Martin, for all the work that you're doing. I think that it's really important that people have a lot of opportunity to come and ask questions and hear from us and hear from you, and I just appreciate that. seeing as how there are quite a few, maybe if one of the social media posts in the next week could be sort of a summary of village outreach plus info session, sort of which things could you come and ask referendum questions about, might be helpful to sort of put that all together in one key scheduled post, potentially.
Okay. Any other, Jason, please?
Yeah, I have an announcement.
Please.
So just wanted to let public know that the Public Art Committee has opened up applications for artist exhibitors for the June 14th, 2025 Village Art Fair that is coming up. So you can actually go to Oregon, wiartwalk.com and find your application there if you want to be an exhibitor. With all of my artistic talent, I am in charge of managing the spreadsheet. So if anybody has any questions about how to participate or things like that, questions can be directed to me on behalf of the committee.
Thank you. Lynn, please.
I just have to be obnoxious and say that there is a listening and learning session this Saturday. Our very own Tom Kirchdorfer will be there to take any questions or listen to any needs that you may have. It'll be in the lobby of the library. Thank you to the library staff for letting us invade the lobby for an hour. 10:30 to 11:30. Pretty sure it's 10:30 to 11:30. Stop on by and say hello, ask a question, and Tom would be happy to answer it for you.
That would be like a village booth type of thing? Or?
Yeah, the village outreach table will be there with information to pick up, kind of these handout sheets.
Yeah.
And then Tom's great knowledge will also be available to pick up.
Really selling it.
Staff or department heads, comments or announcements? Rachel?
I'd just like to thank the community for its support during our pancake breakfast last weekend. We had a really good turnout, and I think as all the numbers are being finalized, we have made more money on that event than we ever have in the past.
Terrific.
So, thank you, everybody, and thank you to our amazing volunteers and the VFW guys who cooked for us.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Item B, 11B, future agenda items. This item is to give village board members the opportunity to place a topic on a future agenda for discussion and or possible action. Tim.
I would like to discuss what our approach is to dealing with contractors and others who do work in the village and make a mess. Is there a process for that? That's not obviously something that a resident should be calling 911 about, but we ought to have an accountability program. And I'd like to know what's in place and if maybe we need to expand that.
Okay, without objection, we will add that. Anyone else? Okay, item 12, closed session business items for discussion and or possible action. Under Wisconsin statutes 19.85 sub 1 sub C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Attendance is limited to the village board and its discretion, any necessary staff, other officers, or other individuals whose presence is necessary for the business at hand. A, review employment, promotion, compensation, and performance evaluation for public works employees. Looking for a motion to move into closed session. Jason and Tim, this is a roll call vote.
Peterson?
Yes. Sorry, I'm never first.
Kirchdorfer?
Yes.
McDaniel?
Yes.
Menke?
Yes.
Van Campen?
Yes.
And who am I missing?
Higgins.
Yes. We are in closed session. Thank you.